Hello and welcome to the Axis Vanguard Podcast. My name is Dravoth and with me as always is Cipher.
Hi guys, welcome back to episode 3.
And we have a special guest with us today, one of our contributors over at Axis Vanguard and probably one of the most experienced players I've ever met of Vanguard. It's Zaee.
Yeah, how's it going?
There he is. So we thought we'd get someone on who has a more informed opinion than either of us. Just so this episode's slightly more professional. What have you been up to this week, Cipher? Just a bit of at the top of the show banter.
The same as usual. It's just more food. Like I don't know what's up with every podcast introducing in food, but this time I had a lemon meringue pie, which I don't know.
Every podcast starts with what fucking pie or cake has
what have I
eaten
eaten
this week? Yeah.
No, like really the first time I had like a full-on pie, then okay.
I got this.
I just picked the meringue.
I got this biscuit that was I only had one, and it was it's like a jam and cream biscuit. It was really good, and I wish I'd bought more of them. But what have you eaten this week, Zaee?
Me?
Yeah, anything
Nothing
good?
too crazy, just all that junk food. I had some Burger King, a double Whopper here.
Yeah, Burger King.
I had some other takeout. I had a little bit of Taco Bell.
Oh, dude, Taco Bell. I miss Taco Bell, man.
Yeah, honestly, it's just been a pretty lazy week.
The thing about Sweden is there's no food culture here. So eating a piece of nice food is a real rarity. Like coming from the UK. Well, in the UK, you can get anything. Like if it exists as a type of food, it's in the UK. Whereas in Sweden, it's a little bit more sparse than that. Like we've got Burger King and we've got McDonald's and we have KFC. There's 3 KFCs in Sweden, I think, or something like that. But there's one in my city. It's very different to how it is in the rest of the world. They've taken all the flavour out of it because Swedish people don't understand taste. So anyway, that's enough top of the show banter. I'd say we'd get complaints from Swedish people, but there are no Swedish people listening to this. Even my friends here wouldn't listen to this. Right, so let's talk about overdress stuff. Because we've had some pretty cool new reveals in the last 2 weeks since we last recorded. I forgot how long it had been. Just over 2 weeks now. So we've seen the first of the non-start decks, and we've seen the first triple rare that will be going into one of the start deck-based main decks.
So for today, we'll be going through the 3 different deck types, which will be Dark States, the other build, which is not Bruce.
Yeah.
Then we'll go through Hexaorb Sorceress, which is Truncated Sanctuary. And it's actually more like Oracle than the last one, which is obviously Zorga. All of them are very interesting in their own right.
Yeah. So basically, it's Dark Irregulars, Oracle Think Tank, Grand. At least visually, you can make arguments that gameplay-wise they're a little different. But visually, that's kind of what they're representing.
Honestly, I'd say Baromagnes is DI's to a T.
Oh, Baromagnes is, yeah.
It just feels like I'm playing DIs.
It feels the same. It's really hard not to talk over it.
Feels like NLK.
It does feel like that, yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. That's the most, I think, clear 1-1 translation of a past clan, I think, is Baromagnes.
I definitely agree. I'd say Hexaorb's pretty close too.
It is, yeah.
We need to see more.
The problem I have with Hexaorb in isolation is I wonder kind of what the full deck is going to look like for that. I think I need to see more to kind of judge how Oracle Think Tank it ends up. Because if you're building it now, it's zombie Frankenstein deck of half Hexaorb, and then you're still running all these grade 3s in it from the main Keter, and it doesn't feel very nice. I tried playtesting it. I don't think you're supposed to playtest it how it is now.
Right now,
it feels fleshed out as the
Baromagnes and Zorga.
Yeah, Baromagnes and Zorga feel pretty. I don't know that they feel complete, but you can play them and they feel like a functional
deck. You have an idea of how it's placed,
yeah.
There's definitely a hole in the second grade 2 slot for Baromagnes, at least.
I think there is for a lot of decks, grade 2s. Maybe not Stoicheia overall, but...
Hell, Dragon Empire still doesn't even have a second grade 1.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of weird to test stuff right now. It's difficult to talk about decks, because we don't know what the deck is looking like. We only know that core ride chain for most of them.
We know the deck concept. I think the term for it is now right lines. I think it was addressed on the stream. Yeah.
I will say Baromagnes at least is playable right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think Dark States is pretty much fully playable for both of their decks, like functionally. Zorga I think is pretty playable. Not perfect, but it's playable. You can test it and you can get a feel of what it's like. Hexaorb, you really can't.
Yeah, you still need most things.
Stoiche has like most of their stuff revealed already.
Yeah, exactly. Stoiche is fine. Well, let's talk about the actual cards rather than just talk randomly about it. So let's talk about
Zorga.
We'll talk about Zorga was first, wasn't it? Yeah. So we'll talk about the new Stoiche.
Yeah, the more country.
Where's that link? Okay, so Zorga is Zorga in English and Zorga in Japanese. Is that right?
Yeah,
something like that. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Or no, it's Zorga in English.
It is Zorga. Okay.
Okay.
Fucking hell, this link you sent is shit, right? Okay. So the interesting thing about this, I mean this interesting in inverted commas, is we've seen the kind of full art spread of the 6 core units, which we saw for all the start decks. You know, we had the grade 1, the grade 2, the grade 3 and the starter, and then in the start decks it was a heal trigger and a crit trigger. I'm assuming it's the same for this as well, although we haven't seen it for the other revealed decks, which is kind of interesting. Or if we did, I wasn't paying attention. So, but that does mean, like, obviously now you can run 8 crits in Stoicheia if you want to. If you want to get rid of those front triggers, you can. Which I don't know that people were concerned about that, but nobody was super passionate about front triggers. I certainly wasn't anyway.
I think certain decks do want to run front.
Oh, definitely certain decks, but I mean, I wasn't looking forward to running them in, say, Dragon Empire particularly.
Honestly, I think that's one of the better ones to run.
Really?
Yeah, because if you ever get so this is extreme high roll.
Yeah.
But if you ever get double Verena, like you're better off. You're always swinging Vanguard first anyway, so you're better off hitting your front there.
I suppose you are early. Yeah.
Yeah. Later on, you'll probably want crits to close the game, but I think fronts are actually going to be good in Dragon Empire. I think clans that aren't going to like fronts are going to be probably. I mean, it's good. Okay, it's good in Baromagnes. It's good in Bruce. I don't think it's going to be as good in Zorga because I think it'll be good in Magnolia. They have a lot of multi attacks, but they don't hit numbers. So like their back row attacks are going to be some of their first attacks.
Yeah.
And then when their Vanguard, their front row is not going to be very strong. They're not going to get boosters, right? So I think they want fronts. But I don't think Zorga wants fronts because it already hits such high numbers. It wants crits, it wants to push damage.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I feel about Dragon Empire, but I suppose they do have that really big early game advantage, and you can form unguardable columns anyway. It was kind of my thought about it.
So should we start with the whole right line for Zorga?
Yeah, go for it. So we have the grade 1. Well, we have the grade 0. We haven't actually seen the card yet, but I think we can assume it's going to be the same as all of them, which is draw a card when you ride over this going second.
It's interesting that they changed the effect so that the first player doesn't get to draw the card.
It's really noticeable too when you're playing.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's really, really noticeable. Playtesting right now is kind of, it's debatable how much, I wouldn't say how much value there is in it, but we're not playtesting completed decks. But you can really, really feel that -1 going first compared to previously. Because it's
really can use it to happen.
I agree. I feel like
going first in Vanguard historically has always been way too strong, with the exception of Strad era.
Yeah.
Strad era going second obviously was better.
But yeah, having that one less card, it really, really feels like you have, if you want to commit to some kind of aggression, you are going to pay for that. I don't know, like I feel like you're probably not going to be guarding turn 1 still, just for the crit, because there's a lot of stuff that can go off in turn 2, but I still feel like you are now much more punished for overextending early.
I mean, like, at least the second player now gets 2 more cards than the first player, like, technically.
Yeah.
If you're a deck that could get punished for overextending. Because, I mean, Verena, for example, will probably be able to just do it for free.
I mean, that really wants to push as soon as it can. I mean, even the grade 1, you can form, 18k columns turn 1 going second.
The numbers they can make at every point of the game is just gross.
Definitely. It's a really scary deck. Like, I think people... I know we're not talking about Stoicheia now, but I think people really underestimate that deck just because it's 3 attacks. And I feel like people... Which is weird, because people were kind of really positive about Zorga, but really negative about... Yeah, exactly. I feel like Zorga kind of does the same thing, just...
Alchemagic is probably the coolest thing that ever happened to Vanguard, to be honest.
It's a really cool effect, yeah.
But, like, I think it's just that it's nothing flashy, right? It's stuff we've all seen before. It's Superior Call, it's a very consistent combo, it's going to have its red chain going up, so it's always going to see the cards, you're going to combo every game. It's going to be like you're playing like Pale Moon in Dragon Empire, pretty much. You're going to play the exact same way every single game. 3 attack lines, nothing fancy. So that's probably why.
I guess so, but I feel like people are being really harsh on 3 attacks is just bad now.
Yeah, especially if you stack that over trigger. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know if I agree that it's bad just because but I know I don't agree that it's bad just because it's 3 attacks. I think 3 attacks is fine. I mean, look at the end of V, we saw 3 attack decks come back in a huge way, or
Yeah.
a 3 attack deck at least.
I think a big factor is like how fast can you set up your killing columns.
Well, D should be just pumping out numbers.
Yeah, it should be pumping very. Yeah,
And it's not like they ever really plateau, right? They're always just going to be pushing out these high
yeah,
power
it's always going higher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's going to be hard to survive, even if it's only 3 attacks. Like they're going to rip a lot of cards out of your hand.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, let's talk about Stoicheia. Sorry, went quite off topic there. Maybe we'll come to a more general conversation towards the end. So we've got Rancor Chain, which is once per turn on Vanguard Circle. This is an act ability. Soul Blast 1, draw 2 cards. Choose up to 1 order card from your hand, discard it. If you did not discard, choose 2 cards from your hand and discard those. And then obviously continuous rearguard. If you played an order, it gets 2k. So that's pretty good. I think that's one of the best ride line.
For grade 1 especially, yeah.
Yeah. It's also an act, which is really interesting because most of them have been
Oh yeah,
rode
most of them
upon
are
or
on
well
place.
placed.
Yeah.
It's a filter 2 for Soul Blast 1, or it's a +1. if
Got
you
an
have
order
an
to
card.
blast.
And it's not like you
yeah.
can't do stuff with a discarded order in this deck either, so it's not a huge neg. Like, honestly, I can kind of see this card having application in Premium potentially as well. Probably not.
For the Vanguard skill?
Yeah, probably not, but I think it's still pretty good.
You could use it for,
Yeah.
what's the order called? Sphere. You could use it to try and search for Sphere.
Yeah, just digging 2 in is good, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the most. Honestly, I think it's one of the
Vanguard
most
is-
powerful cards we've seen in the format so far. I think it's really
For
really
grade
good.
1s, yeah.
Yeah.
No main deck can really like draw a lot of cards early into the game at least. So you can
I
set up
mean,
your combos really
drawing in general is quite a rare skill at the moment.
easily. Yeah.
There's not a great deal of draw, so anything that can draw, especially drawing 2, even if you have to discard both, you know, if you've got 2 dead cards in your hand and you draw 2 good cards, that's just good. It's just a net positive.
I think it's a good card. The only things I really have issues with is so if you whip the order, then you have to discard the 2 cards, which kind of sucks because right now discarding is in a really weird spot where, of course, like in this, it's not going to matter as much because there's going to be recursion. But just in general, like there's only so many cards that are really good cards, and right now every deck is kind of like a weird combo-y tempo kind of style. So having to discard certain pieces early, or like even for example, like your main grade 3 ride, if you have multiples in your hand, you don't want to do that because you want to be able to persona ride back to back to back as much as you can.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much stuck in a weird loophole where like you want to discard triggers, but you'll probably die, so you have to discard pieces, and it doesn't
Yeah,
feel good. And you don't know if you want to use your ride deck card, so that means you might discard more. I think it's going to come to a point where like really early on people are gonna probably be discarding the wrong stuff or bad stuff, and that's gonna make or break their ability to play the game depending on what they discard on this first turn.
Yeah. Do you see this card having any application in Premium?
Maybe. I don't think it would be that great. Like in theory you could use it to dig for sphere, ditch sphere, recur your sphere the following turn, and then do your typical Zaee stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary. I think what they have already is just pretty solid to begin with.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something else, so who knows?
Theoretically, it has application in other, you know, across the board in Stoicheia clans in Premium, but I don't know. I think
mean-
ride chain cards in general are kind of niche just because they have that Vanguard Circle ability and they're dead.
Yeah,
otherwise.
they're all Vanguard Circle.
Look, man, I play Aga Force. If it doesn't restand, we won't play it.
I don't know. Like, I think people are looking really hard to see Premium application for things.
Maybe Ripples.
I was
actually.
saying-
Maybe Ripples.
Yeah, I could see that. Do you want to do this
Black
one?
Tears Heart Dragon. Sure.
Go on.
So it's a grade 2 10k 5k shield when it's placed on the Vanguard Circle. So if you're playing standard, it's basically guaranteed. You basically take any normal order card, so you can take Blitz orders and put it into your hand. Then on the Vanguard Circle, similarly to the grade 1, it gets power when you play an order card. In this case, it gets 5k.
Yeah.
So it's a 15k attacker when you play an order. Yeah.
I mean, the Cont effect is surprisingly good in this deck, I would say.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
cards get really big.
Yeah, because you're pretty much always going to have that 5k online, and you're also probably also generally going to have another 10 on it, so there's a 25k beat stick most of the time. Anything with intercept feels really good in this deck because there's so much cheap superior call from drop as well that you can just keep.
The main issue I have with this
intercepting
card, though, is
yeah.
this is only as good as your first turn is. If you don't see an order, if you don't ditch an order going back to your turn, then it kind of sucks as a ride chain. You don't really want to get this out of your ride deck.
Well-
Sucks because you're also losing a 15k attacker.
I think there are times when you really don't want to see, well, you don't want that order back in hand as well.
Yeah. Because then it messes up your Alchemagic.
Yeah, exactly. As a rear guard, this is pretty good. As a ride chain piece,
it's okay.
Yeah, but also like what's interesting is none of the other pieces, like you know how some ride chains are locked to specific cards, like Hexaorb, you need to ride the grade 2 over the grade 1. You don't need this one. You could potentially swap this for another ride chain piece.
It's one of the few like very generic ride deck things.
I mean, this clan in general, or this archetype in general, is super generic. Like it's really splashable with other stuff. Like anything in Stoicheia that's good could potentially be good here. So I feel like he will be a 4 of in the deck no matter what, but maybe not in the ride deck.
And realistically speaking, like at the time when you're playing this, the only thing you're getting back is Rancor Chain. Like if you turn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad though, because it gives you like a turn 2. You have a, would that be a 15k attacker, give it a booster, that's a 23k column. So it's not the worst. It's just, it doesn't feel good. Like it pretty much is forcing you to use the order there. You really don't need to.
Yeah, I just don't feel it's a particularly solid ride chain piece. Like it's a really good card. It's just in the ride deck. I just don't think you need it. I think you could easily run, like you said earlier, one of these in the ride deck is one less of them in the deck. Yeah. For the sake of a pretty mediocre web.
But when you think about it a different way, right? If let's say you do play in the right deck, because Toshia does Soul Blast a lot, so in a way you are guaranteed to see it one copy in a game if you play it in your right deck.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. You can Soul Blast this out and recycle it with other stuff. It's not that I think it's bad. I'm just thinking, hey, this is a piece of the ride deck we don't need. If we get a really good generic grade 2 ride chain piece later, you could easily
we could easily replace it. Yeah.
So Mysterious Rain Spiritualist Zorga, and he looks fucking awesome, by the way. I love how this card art is. Standard 13k grade 3 with Persona Ride, no shield, etc. Vanguard Circle, when you would play a normal order, you can bind a normal order with a different card name from your drop zone and Alchemagic. We'll talk about that in a second. And then once per turn, counterblast 1, choose a card from your drop zone and call it to rear guard. So Alchemagic is basically play a order card, bind another order card, and then you activate the one you played and pay its cost. You pay both costs and then activate the one you bound afterwards. So it effectively lets you have 2 order cards rather than the 1 per turn, which weirdly, like a lot of people didn't know that was a rule. There are tons of people who were like, what the fuck, I could already pay 2 order cards, this sucks. But no you couldn't.
Really?
Like, I want to call anyone out particularly, but there's a lot of people who, what's the word, maybe more casual focused players who just weren't aware of that rule, because if you just played V, I could understand you maybe not knowing the full rulings for order cards. I mean, obviously there's no excuse for not just reading the fucking rules, but if you're the kind of person who learns just by playing the game, then maybe you didn't know how order cards work, I guess. That seems to be the case.
Like right now, the orders are kind of whatever, like nothing too crazy or too game breaking, but I think this card has a lot of scaling potential.
Oh, and absolutely.
It actually has premium potential too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what's particularly interesting about most of the grade 3, what's the word, like core archetype cards, is you can easily see all they need to do is add the kind of card that this works with, and this deck just gets better.
Yeah.
Right? Hexaorb Sorceress.
Yeah, Hexaorb. Keita in general. Bastion just gets better with every grade 3 they add. This gets better with every order card they add. And it gets a lot better too. Like, I even think the 2 orders that were revealed with Zorga, which we'll talk about in a minute, are actually super good for what they do. Like, they're not game breaking, but they're really powerful.
I think they're good if you can combine them. If you get like one or the other, then it kind of feels like, oh, okay, I got like an incomplete card.
Yeah, that is true. I guess that's the byproduct of Alchemagic as a mechanic, is whenever you're not Alchemagic, well, not using it, you kind of feel like you're not doing too much. One thing that's kind of interesting to note is they are very specific with the ruling that the resolution. Well, the resolution order is the one you play from hand activates first, and the one you bind activates second.
Which is also an issue if you happen to get the power boosting one before you get the
yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say, yeah. The power boosting one is just 3 units, so it's not 3 rear guards, so it's not the worst thing in the world to get that online. And obviously you've got Zorga, so you're always going to be able to call at least 1 unit to the field, no matter what's in hand.
We should cover the order cards.
Yeah, we'll talk about the order cards first, I suppose, just so people have got an idea of what's going on. So the first one is Spiritual Body Condensation, which is Soul Blast 1, choose a card with a grade equal to or less than your Vanguard from drop zone, call it to rearguard and it gets power 5k. And the other one is Counterblast 1. If your Vanguard is Zorga, choose 3 units and they get power 10k. So I think both of those are really good, in combination at least. If you're just playing one of these, if you don't have one in drop or whatever, which is why I kind of question the G2 a little bit, if you don't have one in drop zone, it's going to feel really underwhelming to just activate one of these.
I actually think the G1 order is the best, in my opinion.
I 100% agree with that. Soul Blast 1 for 5k and a +1 from drop is just really good. The grade 3 one is the one you want to discard.
Yeah, grief, despair, rejection.
The 2 grade 3 orders have a higher ceiling, but the grade 1 order is just so much value.
It's so undercosted. I wouldn't say undercosted. It's very competitively costed.
It's really a shame that it won't work with Alenia, though. That was kind of a disappointment.
Magnolia? Yeah.
No. Alenia, the card, the double I revealed today.
When placed from hand, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously deliberate.
Oh, definitely. But I feel like with the cost anyways, it wouldn't have been too broken.
No, I agree. I think that card will probably end up mostly as kind of a recycler for what's it called, Magnolia. Yeah, that's the
Magnolia.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think that's probably not good.
You could increase the card. Yeah.
I mean, I think it probably will still be played in Zorga, looking at what we have access to now. But obviously, better cards than that are going to come up, and that's not going to be needed.
I was going to say, I understand their want to play it safe and not have it be able to just chain and bring back
immediate synergy. Yeah,
Zorga being an act means that you can't use it in the battle phase, so I don't think it was too broken if you would have been able to, because I mean you're just going to burn through a lot of your resources anyways, but maybe you need that to come back in the game.
Yeah, I mean I can see there being calls from drop zone in the battle phase later on, so I guess it future proofs that.
True,
but it's a bit of a shame still. I don't really think that was a necessary restriction to make. I don't, like you said, the costs are high enough that I don't think it's unreasonable that it could have been run in Zorga.
The good is the Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, right?
Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1.
When placed from hand.
I mean, they'll still probably play it for now.
That's what I mean. There's nothing better than that now.
I like the grade 3 they got, though. The Hydraulic
the new order,
which is obviously...
the Aquaforce looking dragon. Yeah.
So it's permanent 18k attacker. Yeah, I think that could be
with all the power that their stuff gets.
The numbers you're farming are like...
So just with the booster alone, not even counting the actual Alchemagic power gaining, that's going to be a 28k column. And then we add in the 10ks and the 5ks, it gets really big.
If you get Persona right, 48. You can really scale very high.
It's really big columns, and like you said, I think... you're going to need... This is going to be a PG or die deck, I think.
Yeah. You really don't want to play late game with this deck because the way it scales really increases over time because of the whole drop zone mechanic in general.
Yeah. But it doesn't really have access to a particularly powerful early game because some of the big number order card is tied to Zorga. So you're not going to be seeing the order used turn 2, so you don't have to worry too much about that. I think this is... I think it's very well balanced.
Also, I think when deck building at least, how many order cards are you playing for Alchemagic? That's the other thing you got to consider.
Well, that's the thing. Right now, just looking at these 2 order cards especially, I know we've got the other grade 3 as well. Although that's Soul Blast 2, so I don't know that you want that as a 4 of.
I think you do want to play that one in high numbers. I think the power one's the one you play at the least numbers.
The 10k one, right?
The 10k?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it is an option. I mean, this is... The kind of interesting thing about this format overall is costs are pretty high right now, and resource generating cards are quite low. We haven't seen any soul charge yet really, so you are kind of dependent on just riding every turn.
Yeah, but the thing is, you got to play that grade 3 order card because that helps you dig.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's
what it does.
Pretty much the only traditional.
It's kind of mill, right?
Mill,
it's supposed to kind of mill 4 core 1-on-1 them.
Otherwise, you're not gonna get the full benefit of Alchemagic every turn.
True.
Yeah. And that's the problem is we only really have 12 at most really good order cards.
So I think that's going to be at least a 3 of.
I mean, even if you're not going to use them, I suppose you just want the numbers just to get them in the drop zone, just to be able to access them. Because if you don't see those cards, this deck kind of doesn't do a lot.
I wouldn't be surprised if they run a ratio of 3-3-2 or
really
4-3-3 or something like that. Yeah, it's going to be high.
I mean, I would think it would be really high. I would think it would be higher than that even. Just because
I don't think you want to max out.
Maybe not max out, but I think you want to be running at least 10. I just feel like if you don't see, if you don't have an order in drop and in hand, then Zorga just feels really almost like naked.
That, plus, coupled with the grade 3 itself, that's over a third of your deck with no shield value.
I mean, that's true.
You're basically Keter Sanctuary.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's not like that isn't an intentional design for some clans. So I wonder if that's meant to be an intentional design here.
I think they're gonna want it. They're gonna want it in spots where like they're gonna have the cycling to go through their cards fast and to ditch a lot of these orders. But I don't think you want it at super high numbers because you only want to have maybe 4 or 5 turns. So you only need enough orders to where you're gonna get the double benefit of orders, at least 2 to 3 of your grade 3 turns.
From my experience, I think like last Friday or so, we got the reveals for the new grade 3s for kids. For basically, it's for Epic's Ruler Veteran support. And even then, when I was just playing it, like how many grade 3s are you playing realistically for the deck? Like you could go like 22 or something like that, but realistically, you still need some shield to at least last till turn 4.
Yeah, it's an awkward spot, really.
I think deck building and turn 1 is gonna have a lot of impact in how well that Zorga does in competitive play.
I still think it's a really interesting deck, though. It's almost pretty much completely unique in Vanguard as well.
It's neat. It reminds me of Spellslinger, and I like that kind of playstyle.
I do as well. Yeah, I do as well. And I'm not someone who's ever really been particularly passionate about Grand Blue before. And I know it's not Grand Blue. It's it's a Stoy KO deck inspired by or whatever. But it's fucking Grand Blue, right? But I really like how these cards work. I really like the mechanics. I like that they've managed to keep a kind of a vaguely Grand Blue feel, but also this is a totally unique set of mechanics. We've not really had anything that interacts with order cards before, at least not in a way like this.
No, it's very good.
I think it's one of the most exciting sets of reveals we've had so far.
Now, a lot of people I know they're really hyped to make this deck.
Yeah, definitely.
and for good reason, of course.
Well, I mean, they definitely seem to think that this is something special because everything else has been announced in pairs, and this got its own announcement, and it got 5 cards rather than 3. So I think they felt this needed more time to talk about.
Oh, I got 5 cards too.
Did you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, not on the same reveal though.
The only one they shortchanged was Hexaorb.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Hexaorb is nothing other than the right deck.
I
mean, look, it's basically Pentamagus, okay?
It is. It's well, we'll talk about that. Let's finish talking about Zorga. Yeah. But yeah, like they did an FAQ with Zorga as well. It works how you think it's going to work. There's nothing too confusing in there. I think this has a lot of premium potential with cycloned mechanics.
Well, definitely. I think it will start spawning its own builds.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. And of course, this is obviously everyone's thinking Grand Blue, but this is Aqua Force, this is Neo Nectar, this is everything. So
we can't use it. We can't use it. Hey, Mega Colony might finally be good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this could do some cool shit. This could work with some niche strides and stuff. So yeah, I'm excited for this deck a lot. I think this for me has a lot of premium. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's not going to be like a super meta deck, but it's certainly going to. There's certainly a lot of interesting things you can do with this.
So the only use I could see for it in premium in Aqua Forest is you play it in Ripples, which I said with the grade 1.
Yeah.
So you play the whole order build in Ripples. You use the Tempest.
They use.
And you play all the orders that let you superior call from either drop or top of the deck to refuel your stuff, and then you legion into stuff after you use the act to
to get the order cards for automation.
Yeah. So then you basically have GB1, so you could play like some really keki stuff. And your lineup, like, I don't know, like some Adelaides or something. Who knows? Yeah. But you could, theoretically.
I think it's just interesting to think about new builds that this unlocks. Even if it's not anything super competitive, it may not turn out to be. But I think there's definitely interesting builds you could come up with. And I think that's cool. Because a lot of the grade 3s, I don't think have a lot of reason to take them over something with gift for a lot of clans. Protect clans especially, I think, can maybe be looking at these more than others.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, we'll see. So yeah, I think the consensus there on Zorga is we like it.
Yep.
I don't know how well it's going to do in the initial wave. It really depends on what their last few cards are to fill up the deck. But I feel like there's going to be growing pains for people to learn it at first. And overall, like the deck makes really, really big columns all the time. But I feel like there's going to be some disconnects. Some people are going to overuse their resources too fast, or they're not going to have good alch magic combinations, or they won't have it in the right orders. So it's going to be a high skill cap deck, I think.
I think so too. I think order mismanagement is going to be resource mismanagement is going to be order. Fuck, I did it again.
I mean, order mismanagement is not wrong either, because
I suppose not. But
if you want to resolve order 1 and 2, but you can only resolve 2 and 1.
Yeah.
That will be a thing.
Well, what I was going to say though, I think resource management in general is going to be a really big problem for some people going into this format. I think that's going to be something that's a long-term thing people have to get used to. Is I can't just counterblast 4 and win. I have to pace myself across the game. I can't just infinitely soul charge and. Shut up, man!
Yeah.
Don't trash talk me.
Excuse me, I can infinitely soul charge. What are you talking about?
Okay. If you're not playing Dark States, you can't infinitely soul charge. I genuinely think this feels like a new format. I won't say it feels like a different game, but it feels like there's enough new stuff here. Whereas V, it felt like they just kind of looked at everything from the past few years and just watered it down.
You get a bridge version. Yeah, you get a bridge version of the whole Vanguard's Legacy.
Yeah, it was just like a speed run of the past 10, was it 6-7 years of Vanguard? Whereas this feels like they've gone, okay, let's do something actually new now. Okay, so let's talk about Hexaorb.
I guess I'll introduce it. This is Zaee, so we'll leave it to Zaee, right? Okay, so...
Yeah, we'll leave Zaee for Dark States,
for his new boy Baromagnes. Okay, so for Hexaorb, there is not much.
Before we move on, there is one thing we need to talk about, which is the new Perfect Guards.
Might as well talk about that anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Just because we'll forget otherwise. I just remembered now. So there are some new Perfect Guards. They're not too exciting, I guess. I think they're exciting, but they're not like, oh my god, fuck, these new, you know what I mean? It's not like a crazy new defensive mechanic. I guess it kind of is, but I think people will be underwhelmed because it's not draw PGs, and that's what everyone's used to.
Yeah, draw
PGs were too broken.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm more than happy to see draw PGs gone. I really am.
I love what they did for clans that need to play draws to begin with, but they're way too powerful for some others.
Yeah,
or in the case of some of the clans I also played, they're actually a detriment because up until we had crit sentinels, I had nothing to replace them with, and draw PGs actively were killing me.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
no, I'm quite happy they're not gone, but I'm happy that we haven't got them yet. Touch wood. I don't want to jinx it by saying that. Because whenever I say anything the week after the fucking thing gets revealed, that contradicts what I've said. So
these new PGs honestly could be just as broken, though.
I think so, but let's talk about what they are first. So the new PG is basically it's the old PG, but if you have 2 or less cards in hand, you don't discard, basically. So effectively, if you're on the back foot, or if your last card in hand is a PG, you can still PG.
Yeah. If you're trying to come from behind, you can at least keep 1 combo piece to try and retaliate. It's very useful. Or just Straight Talk survives if you let's say you got 2 PG in hand and only 2 cards, you can use both of them now. It's not like you game over.
I don't know if you guys saw the video of Living Proof, but he had a game where he had all 4 of his PGs in hand, and I think he had 2 heal triggers too. So he had a grand total of 8 cards in hand, if I recall. And he survived like a full strength Keter Sanctuary turn by using the heals as individual guard, PGing, and then the following turn using the other heal, PGing, and because the last 2 cards in his hand were PG, he could just PG with each of them.
I mean, there's nothing worse than having to discard a huge shield value or a second PG to survive, and then know, if I hadn't had to discard that, I could have survived. So it is nice. I think it's a really good change. It's a way of making the game a little bit, I don't know if I'd say slower is the right word. It's a bigger defensive option. If you're behind anyway, you now aren't just like, oh, well, fuck it, I might as well just...
I think it fits a bit of like how over triggers were designed. It's like it adds more comeback factor to the game.
Yeah, I think that's what it's focused on, is comeback factor.
I think that's what's going through your mind. And of course, they are all rare. They're no longer WRs or above.
Yeah. I mean, I just think they're good change, honestly. I can't see anyone being annoyed about that, aside from there are certain people who play certain clans who I think will be really salty that they aren't getting draw PGs back. But again, like you said, I always felt draw PGs were really OP, and I'm really glad that we don't have them. And I think there's even an argument for these in premium over draw PGs for certain clans as well. Maybe
I think certain clans, at least not necessarily in premium, but like even in D, I think like certain nations are gonna, or certain decks within nations are gonna be able to abuse these really hard though, and then translate that into to premium, especially same said decks or like deck archetypes will be able to abuse them. One that comes to mind immediately is OTT. Anything defensive, OTT, Angels, all those decks.
That's the two I was thinking of as well.
I also think Grand Blue, of course. Like these are going to be decks that are just going to abuse the hell of these PGs, and that's kind of scary. And like I think you're even going to see it like an extension in Overdress. Like I do think Hexaorb is going to be one of those decks that'll be able to abuse the PGs harder than any other decks. Like as it gets more filtering.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, I feel like looking at it now, Hexaorb doesn't look that intimidating. Maybe just in the isolation, the vacuum of information we have now with just these 4 cards, you could look at this and go, "That's not that bad." But
I feel like it's that one OTT all over again. Invisible power that people don't really see.
Yeah, exactly. Because people said that about Imperial Daughter. Everyone was like, "This isn't that good," and then it was dominant for ages.
Oh well, yeah. It was only when Murakumo came out.
The fact that you're Pentamagus with built-in Tetra, that's disgusting.
Yeah, it's really good. It's one of those things where, we don't have the cards that support this yet, right? So we can only look at the 4 we've got. But it's pretty obvious from looking at these 4 what the cards that support it are probably going to do. You know what I mean? Like, we know there's going to be more filtering. There's probably going to be some more draw. There's going to be support for this that it writes itself, really, doesn't it? We can kind of gather from this, from looking at past OTT, what this is probably going to do as an archetype.
And you know what I really like about the card? So when you look at like some of those effects traditionally, like when you check a trigger, give 10k power, those are all once per turns. Like even Kasada, arguably one of the strongest cards in Susanoo at the time, and OTT was like in its heyday, at least in Japan, because we never got it in time. But like that was still a hard once per turn.
Yeah.
But Hexaorb is going to be every time you check a trigger. Like those are going to be big columns. Yeah, the built-in Tetra effect when you Persona Road. Like I think that it doesn't.
No, Tetrafade is Persona Road. You're right. I was thinking you said the normal ride. Sorry.
It doesn't
because you have the filter 3 on or scry 3.
We haven't gone through the cards yet.
Let's talk about the cards. Let's do the cards.
That's on the grade 2 though.
That is the
actual.
But it's the grade 3 turn.
Yeah. Which is going to be really powerful.
Yeah, I honestly think it's a really when it first got announced. I always have this tendency to be really negative about decks that I play, and Zaee always goes, "No, it's fine," and then I take a day, and then I'm like, "Oh yeah, it is good."
When I looked at that card, it's like this card is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I did initially, and then I was like, "Oh yeah," but I haven't seen the rest yet, so I don't want to go off going, "Oh, this is gonna be fucking great," and then it not get the support. You know what I mean? Like I hate to run away with excitement for a card. I don't want to be. I was about to name drop someone then. I won't name drop anyone in particular, but we all know who I'm talking about. And I don't want to... I don't like, my initial reaction is always that. And then, like, a minute later, I have kind of a reality check on myself, which I think I'm too harsh on stuff, especially if I personally play it.
No, I like her effect a lot, so I'll let you read it.
Okay, cool. We'll start. So again, we've got the normal grade 0 starter. I think this is going to be the default Keta Sanctuary starter because it's a waifu. We're going to see this run in every Keta deck. Yeah. Until they get something better.
Then the grade 1.
And the grade 1 tier square sorceress. So interestingly, actually to note is none of these are obviously Maguses. They've all got effect like names of shapes. So you have square, penta, hexa. But what's interesting is it's not tier square Magus.
They're not Maguses. They're not Witchers or anything.
Yeah.
It's a brand new naming convention.
Is it even in Genesis as well? Because it's not sorcerer, it's sorceress.
Yeah.
So these are not going to be compatible with any existing support for premium, which again it is probably deliberate. I don't think it's necessary, but there you go. So, grade 1, standard grade 1 stat line, 8k, 5k. When this unit is rode upon by Pentagleam Sorceress, counterblast 1 and draw a card. The Pentagleam Sorceress being the grade 2. And then rear guard, once per turn, when your drive check reveals a trigger unit, counterblast 1, choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and put it on the bottom of their deck. So, it's got draw, which is quite rare.
On a Vanguard cycle, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite rare in general. Just the fact that's just draw a card. We haven't seen a whole lot of that.
It's Circle Magus all over again.
It is just Circle Magus.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to see people denying that or not. That's my only issue. Like, if this is going first, you could potentially deny that. I don't know if you would, because obviously if you do, you're denying yourself a +1 if it's going first into you. But
I mean, it was pretty common practice to do into OTT back in the day.
Yeah, so exactly. That's right. Yeah. So I think that probably is. You could say that on its own it is something that means you're not not going to be attacked first turn, I suppose. So it's not nothing. But
I want to talk about its second skill though.
Yeah,
its second skill is much more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. I like that they're like with the merging of the clans into nations. Like you're starting to see control in like OTT-esque archetypes.
We should see before. Especially like this is actually I think it's like one of the cheapest way to remove regards. Like at least in overdress, like real removal. I wouldn't count like Brian Gates prison because you can get it back.
I think it's still cool. It's disruption rather than removal. I think.
This is trade up. Market is more disruption. Yeah.
It's good disruption too because this is disruption that Zorga can't play around. A lot of decks don't have draw power.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This isn't retire. This is put on the bottom of the deck, which if you're playing Zorga, that's way worse to deal with.
Even for overdress units.
Yeah. I mean, this is really, really annoying for Dragon Empire. Yeah, this is your Verena and your Trickstar gone. Yeah, so it's really good. Like it is niche.
Another thing to note is a lot of the removal right now is currently column restricted too. This is unrestricted removal. You choose.
The only restriction, obviously, it is front row only.
But I mean, I don't think that's usually what you want to hit right now.
Yeah, like there's not that many. I mean, ironically, one of the only back row units I would want to hit is this. So
yeah.
It's not. I don't think that's a big restriction at all.
Or a certain 18k grade 1 in a certain nation.
Yeah, later.
Yeah.
Like even in like Apex Ruler, you can actually just play this as your grade 1. Because like having this like
this is a Keita staple.
Option to remove. Yeah, just because like having like on demand removal when you check a trigger is it's so good.
It's not necessarily on demand because you do need to check a trigger.
Yeah, you need to check trigger, but
well, here's the thing: looking at this archetype, you are going to get top deck scry. I think generically in Keita. And if you do, then that improves Bastion as well, and then this becomes much more accessible in Bastion. So I think this is a really good card. I was initially really harsh on it. I guess because I missed...
Yeah, I remember.
I think I was thinking about the second skill in a really, like, V mentality. Like, that would be a bad skill in V. Right now, that's a really good skill.
Not to mention, if you bot deck of Arena, they're technically neg-2ing. Because the Trickstar goes to drop. Arena goes to deck.
No, the Trickstar goes to
the Trickstar goes with it?
Yeah.
Trickstar goes to the deck too.
Yeah. So wherever you're...
Horus.
That's way worse, because the Trickstar going to the drop, they can get that back easy. But
Nirvana.
Yeah, Trickstar in the deck, they've got no way of getting Trickstar back out. So.
Literally,
I think it only gets better too once we see what the new Verena does, because like if it does overdress over top of Arena, like I think it does, like, that's gonna be
send the whole thing back.
So big.
Yeah.
Like this is actually like a really good grade 1, and I know a lot of people are kind of annoyed by the fact that they basically recycled Circle Meg's effect, but I do think
But that's the thing is, like, that's what your eye is initially drawn to, because we're kind of conditioned to look at these as they're the ride deck cards, so what do they do in the ride deck? So I think everyone, including me, was really focused on that first skill when they looked at this card and was like, it's Circle Megas. Circle Megas doesn't get run now. It wasn't that amazing even at the time. I guess it was, but like retrospectively, it was power crept out pretty easily. But the second skill is so good. It's a deck that doesn't really have access to a lot of removal, or the clans within it haven't traditionally. I guess Shadow Paladin, but I don't know. I just think it's a really good card. I can see this being run in every Keita deck for a long time.
Not to mention too, like there's definitely quite a few decks right now where it's like, okay, I only want to run one of the ride deck card and no other copies. But this is a card, like, just with that removal effect alone is worth running multiple copies. And it's definitely not like that. Ironically, this is a card you want to run multiple copies of, but the grade 2 is a card you only want to run one of.
Yes.
The grade 2 is... I don't know. Okay, like, right now... let's talk about the grade 2 then. Go on.
Yes, so the name is Pentaglim Sorceress. So
that's interesting. The first one is Tri-Connect, Tier Square, Pentaglim, and Hexaorb. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6.
Like 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So
somebody would say that if we didn't comment on it. So let's just nip that in the bud.
So basically, when you write on top of it with Hexaorb, which is the grade 3, you do the top 3 cards of your deck and you just rearrange them in any order. Then the second skill, on the regular circle, when you place it, you just look at the top of your deck, put it at the top or bottom. When you put it at the bottom, it gets 2k. So it becomes 12k if you put a card at the bottom. It's very... I'll say in Hexaorb, it doesn't have much application.
I mean, the first skill is
the first skill is really what you're looking at.
Yeah. The second
I get
skill,
the idea behind the second skill. Like, you want to play them on turn 2. You want to start filtering.
Yeah.
And then you make sweet 20k columns that become 15k shield.
I feel the skill chest used.
It's not bad.
Maybe when we see more scrying, you can see in combination with Hexaorb. Yeah, maybe it'll get good then.
And obviously, I would love it if it was check top 2, 1 top, 1 bottom. That's a bit too good for the current power level we're at. That would be
it's pretty
way
fair.
ahead of everything else. But
he has no cost, so
I think it would have been okay. There's a few of those in set 1 of V. Yeah. Then again, OTG was broken in set 1 of V.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah,
maybe not, but.
Maybe if it had a counterblast attached to it or something, that would be okay.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't even think it needed cost, but I feel like the power gain's low enough to where it could have been free still, but it definitely could have been top 2.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the worst of this set of cards.
Definitely.
It's not bad, though. Yeah. Like, you're gonna
the ride effect is really good.
Yeah, the ride effect is amazing because it turns what would otherwise be a dead ride.
Yeah. As you'll see with Hexaorb later.
Yeah.
But I'll say the grade 2 is actually like in like non-Oracle builds, actually non-Hexaorb builds actually might see more play.
I was going to say I could see this being pretty good in Bastion.
Yeah. I'll show you out of the games. It can be pretty clutch actually.
Yeah, I can
you
see
don't
this
rerunning all victories.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's you check top deck. It's not a grade 3. You put it on the bottom of the deck. There you go.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a surprise that people will do that with it. I think that's perfectly decent use for it. It's not.
You see the over trigger live at the top. It's the sort of things.
I mean, of these 3 cards, that is the one that's going to get replaced. People are going to be looking for a way to get that out of the main deck. I think over time, I think it's really good for the first set, but I would like to run something better than that over time. Because again, I'm not a huge fan of on-place effects, and we've seen less of them.
Yeah, this one is one of the few ones actually.
Yeah, there's not a huge amount. I mean, it is free, so I guess you can't bitch too much.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it gets replaced in the set right out the gate.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm already looking at ways to do that. It's fine, but when the best you can say about a card is it's fine, you don't want to be running that card long term.
If you have a choice, yeah.
You honestly just need the 1 copy. You don't need any more than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Brother's Soul. Right, Brother's Soul is a really good card because there's nothing that does that better. And I feel like this is a bad card, but there's still nothing that does it better, so that's what you're stuck with. Yeah. But I can honestly see you replacing this with like just a beat stick, because it's just, I can even see you putting like a grade 3 from the Bastion deck in over this.
Maybe, yeah. So with that, I think we'll go to the grade 3 we're talking about for a long time already.
Yeah, so Hexaorb, you probably figured out its effect from what we've said, but Hexaorb Sorceress, grade 3, normal, 13k, Persona Ride, no shield. I feel like I need to say no shield because everyone's going, shield value's gone down, and everyone's fucking desperate for a grade 3 with shielding tutor, but sorry, this isn't it. When your drive check reveals a trigger unit, choose one of your rear guards, and it gets power 10k at the end of turn.
Yeah, and like Zaee mentioned...
Let me finish. Let's do the full card first, okay? We'll come back to it. And then, once per turn, act. If you Persona Road this turn, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, reveal up to 1 critical trigger or front trigger from your hand and put it on the top of your deck. And this unit gets drive +1 till the end of turn. Now you can talk about go first skill.
The fact that it's an auto that's not once per turn is so good.
Yeah. I was genuinely expecting it to be once per turn. And it's not your triggers are increased by 10k.
Yeah.
This is you give another. Power. Admittedly, you can't give it to the Vanguard. No, it's not unit. It's specifically rear guard. Yeah. But I think that's still better. I prefer.
I mean, the way you're probably going to stack it is the power on Vanguard anyway, and then the bonus power, like the trigger power on Vanguard, the bonus power on rear guard to spread your power.
I mean, you could technically put it on the booster.
Yeah, I'll say like that actually works from the old rulings. Like you can give power to the booster.
Yeah, so it's not like you can't.
It's like Lambros. Yeah, it's like Lambros.
Yeah, Lambros.
So it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not like this is locked out of going to your Vanguard attack or anything. But yeah, there's not a lot to say about that. It's just a good skill. It's just a really good skill. On your first ride, you're going to scry top 3. You're going to put. You're probably, let's be honest, the chance of there not being a trigger there is going to be fairly low. It's statistically likely there will be one. You put that on the top, boom.
I mean, you're probably going to get it anyways because you just scry top 3, and then you're going to sculpt it.
Rearrange things, yeah.
At least hit 1 trigger.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, and then when you Persona Ride, you're guaranteed gonna trigger.
I was in 2 minds about this skill for a little while, just because it's like Persona Ride. This is only going to get better over time, for one thing, because no matter how things end up at the end of this set, we are going to see consistency added to Persona rides. That's just an inevitable thing I think is going to happen to game design. And we are going to see more draw as well. So this is just going to get better as time goes on. I think first set, it would be really powerful if you could just guarantee this every turn. Yeah. And obviously you are going to get support cards that are going to scry and stuff as well.
I like the fact that you don't really end up being a neg one. Like you still get your normal.
Yeah. I was, like I said, I was really harsh on it when it first got revealed because I was like, oh, this is super inconsistent. And it is still a little inconsistent, but it's not inconsistent to the point at which it's bad. You know what I mean? Like it's inconsistent in the same way that Vanguard as a game and card games in general, you know, are by design somewhat inconsistent. So yeah, I think it's really good. There's not a lot to say about it, to be honest. It's a very simple card, I will say.
I like the fact that it works with fronts too, instead of just crits.
Yeah, I like that as well, because it means you can use it right out of the gate with anything. I wonder how fronts could be built upon in general, because I mean, Oracle Think Tank now, in V especially, is a super aggressive deck from like turn 1. And I mean, I know people prefer to play it as a really slow deck with Deer. That's shit. Don't do that. Like, it was so annoying that was the popular build with Susanoo. That really annoyed me. Like, Susanoo should have been
rush crit.
You had such good like guard restrict early and such good like checking triggers and Amaterasu and all kinds of cool shit you could do on turn 2. People just didn't like it. People were like, no, I want to play Uriel and I want to play Deer in every single deck ever. Which is fine, but that was a worse deck than the turn 2 focus deck, in my opinion. I think Zaee agrees with me on that.
I agree as well.
But yeah, I think if we think about Oracle Think Tank in that sense, I can see front triggers being used.
One thing about front triggers is because it gives everything power. Yeah. Let's say your opponent doesn't have perfect guard, you attack with Hexaorb. When you check the front, your opponent gets 2 to pass. Your opponent gets 3 to pass, let's say, right? You can just give you get the tank to the front row regardless. You can give tank to the booster with Hexaorb.
I mean, if your opponent is dropping 3 to passes on 1 damage attacks, then yeah, that's a pretty good place to be, I think.
But it really makes it like very low. The deck doesn't do anything like crazy for it to do such powerful plays.
Yeah,
it's very stiff.
For me,
compared to like
that one, there's a lot of mind games you can play with this.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the grade 1 is the real winner of this chain, if you like, because I just think that's such a good generic.
It's a very good,
yeah.
I think Hexaorb going on is going to be crazy, and like there's so many mind games you can play in set 1.
I think that's all we say about it.
Oh right, yeah. Let's go to Baromagnes then.
Yeah, still one more deck.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't want to talk about Alden first?
About the killer stuff. I mean,
we'll do that last. We'll do that last. Let's just do the ride chains.
Right.
The ride chains are the meat and potatoes of this set.
I was going to say I have a lot to talk about for Dark States.
Yeah, Alden.
Might as well do Alden first.
Okay, sure.
No, okay, we can get Alden out of the way then. Okay. Where is he?
Alden. Yeah. So, I think I guess I'll introduce these 3 cards. I guess since I've been testing version kind of a lot. So
let's do Alden last.
Okay, so I'll go straight from the least relevant to the most relevant in my opinion. So the first one is Swinging Sword of Justice, which is a new grade 3 normal order for Kita, of course.
Yeah.
He has a skill. Play this card with Soul +1 grade 3. So normally this lock ban turn 4 unless you use the rough looks on turn 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you choose one of your opponent regards. Then your opponent then you choose one regard. Then all cards in the column go into the deck. So again, it's another removal that could put start to the deck.
It's interesting that it's bottom of the deck as well. Yeah, bottom of the deck seems to be like
the new thing. Yeah,
in a way, it is better than Retire.
This was Gear Chronicle. Yeah, this was Gear Chronicle's thing previously, but now I guess it's Kita's.
We saw it in Murakumo as well, I think.
Yeah, Murakumo as well. Yeah. I thought order card.
I think it's a pretty okay order card. It's nothing too flashy. Yeah. It's fine. Like, Soul Blast 1 grade 3 is not that big a deal.
I think this order card is now better than the other order card just by virtue of
right now. Especially when you see the
because
Alden, right? Yeah.
Alden completely replaces the other order card.
100%, yeah.
I wouldn't say completely, but you wouldn't
run both.
I wouldn't run both. No,
you're not going to be able to afford that.
Yeah, like the thing is, if you don't have 2 counterblast, you can still play Alden, and Alden still does stuff. The order card is dead.
Not to mention, this is column removal, which is good.
Yeah, column removal is good. This is the same. Like I think I highlighted in my write-up. It's like he is a root flare dragon effectively, so he gets around resist if you choose the one that's not resist. So currently it's only trick stuff for the moment. But let's say you're setting that Dragon Empire, they call trick stuff the right deck. You just you can just you start first. You go this. You go rough look. You send back the column back. It's a huge tempo play.
Yeah. No, it's a really good. Yeah.
I think
for a common.
I think after this set comes out, that they're probably going to be playing this in the deck to keep the grade 3 count up.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, it's a grade 3 order as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it counts for the skill for the right deck and such.
I mean, one thing I feel the need that I keep having to explain to people at the moment is that an order card is basically a -1.
Yep.
It's always
at all times, right?
To play the card. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to remember that if an order card does the same thing as a unit, the unit is always better. And I feel like people have kind of forgotten that because there's so many order cards being added that they've never really thought about order cards before, especially people who mostly played V. Because, I mean, Premium was way more where order cards found their home than V. Aside from, Book of Strong Arming or whatever it's called. Aside from that, and maybe I think people ran Solidaire Bangle a little bit in V, but for the most part, it's been
mostly premium,
more of a premium thing.
Book of Strong Arming was a +2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. So people didn't really think about it. Yeah, I mean, this is a -1 to potentially -2. That's how you have to look at it, I think.
So it's like the other cards are going through it very briefly. It's just Darkstream Dragon, a grade 3. Then activate if you got 3 or more grade 3 units, including the Vanguard. Similar to Forts from previously. You Soul Blast 2, all your grade 3s get boost on the end of turn. So if you're running it's really good. If you're running so many grade 3s, like it's going to be clutch when you have 2 grade 3s in hand.
It's also an act as well.
It's ag, yeah. It's not on place.
Yeah, so I think this kind of opens up this deck a little bit more to deck building. Well, now all you have to do is run. You can run a deck of grade 3s now and triggers.
The only unfortunate thing is it makes ugly numbers. 26k.
Yeah, it isn't efficient in that sense, but at the same time, it's still it's good. But I know what you mean. I always hate seeing wasted numbers like that. My OCD is like, God, ugly.
I mean, it's okay because you're playing with Bastion. It's a 30k line.
Well, that's true. Bastion does.
So Bastion does because of that. So I think let's go on with the Alden itself. So it's a grade 3.
So this is the triple rare.
Yeah, this is the first triple rare that's not part of a right line. Yeah.
So this is obviously meant to fit into Bastion.
Obviously, a Bastion. Yeah. So heavily sort of gorgeousness Alden.
Heavily sort of gorgeousness. Okay.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Wow.
Apparently that's what they're going with. So Convulse 2, so plus 1.
Certainly thinks a lot of himself.
Yeah, you call a card from your hand to Regasicle. If you call a grade 3, which you should be calling grade 3s, you draw 2 cards. Then the second skill, when it attacks, if you have 3 or more grade 3 units, it gets 5k at the end of turn.
Not counting the main grade 3s, stuff like that, this is like the best card of the
deck has
of Overdress so far. Not even just the deck, this is like the best effect on a card in Overdress.
Yeah.
Not counting the main rides.
I agree.
This card is overloaded. For Overdress.
True.
I mean, this goes straight into Hexa as well. This is just such a good.
Really?
Oh, 100%, yeah. Why would you not run this in Hexa? Yeah.
It is like it's like how in old days we used to run the grade 3 10k, it gets 3k, but now it's a 10k.
Yeah, it's just a really good card.
I don't know if you'll ever really get the second effect in Hexa, but I mean that first effect you could just hold it. Like you could run it as like a 3 or 4 of in Hexa and just call itself.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like this. It's just there's nothing better than this right now in Hexa, and I don't think the grade 3 restriction is, it's not enough to make this something you don't want to run.
Like that, yeah.
And the skill is just good enough. Like, and again in Bastion, this replaces the order, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
I think you've been
100%. When you have a choice between a card and like just an order card with the effect and an actual unit with the body with the same effect.
Yeah.
And even though it's slightly more cost, you definitely still take the card.
I think the cost is so minimal. Like it's Soul Blast 1 in the only deck that can reliably put something in Soul, and it calls a grade 3. Well, you're going to have grade 3s. If you haven't got any grade 3s in hand, you've got bigger problems than this.
Order cards are always inherently a neg, and I'd never run Brother Soul, for instance, if I didn't have to.
Yeah.
I don't believe in running cards without bodies and just hard negging just to hit a requirement.
Like, an order card has to be significantly better than a unit to justify running it.
Agreed.
You know, this is a Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1 to +2, whereas the order card is Counterblast 2 to +1. And I guess you could argue that it's a filter to some extent. But in terms of value, it's a +1. I get that the order doesn't do anything else, so you could say, oh, but then don't run it. Like, actually, people have really strange value misunderstandings with orders.
Alden's a +2.
Yeah, he's just like, I agree with you. I think this is the best card so far that we've seen for Overdress in terms of, I don't necessarily think that makes this the best deck, but as the best individual card, for sure.
Oh, this card's fantastic. A great restand target too.
Yeah.
Off of
yeah. Since the 5k the 5k is until end of turn, unlike end of battle, so
yeah,
you will activate it multiple times if you resend it.
Yeah, so he gets +5
he's so
and
good.
+10.
He is such a good card. I saw this card, I was like, wow, this card's good.
Yeah, you're going to stack everything on this and restand it.
At least minimum on restand on the Persona Ride turn, he's going to be 33k attacker on his own, not counting any triggers.
Yeah.
Like a really good card.
But you have, there's something that can give him 5k, I can't remember what card it is.
I know the card you're talking about.
There's the Go to Soul that gives him 10k.
10k, yeah.
You know, you're going to make this a huge monster. If you get a trigger and a restand, this is, you know, huge.
You might just win off this alone.
Yeah.
Similar to the Colossus in mind.
And it's also not locked to the only way it's locked to archetype is that there's some grade 3 wording. But I don't think that's that big a deal, honestly.
So I know I talked to you guys about this, but for the viewers listening, what is really important for me when I'm going to be, by the way, I'm Zaee, the Dark States head. So what's really important to me when I'm going to be writing my Dark State articles going forward is going to be staples, like cards that are going to be in these decks for a long time, have a lot of lasting power. And Alden, in my opinion, this card is going to be staple for a lot of sets. Like this card is going to be the backbone of Bastion.
I mean, I don't know how they could really replace this unless they just make several versions of this same card. Yeah, unless every triple rare for this deck is the same as this but better, and it just gets power crept out. You know, they would have to make 2 or 3 better versions of this to phase this out.
Like, even if you're someone who may want to play Keter, but you're not sure, you got to get 4 of this right away. Just at risk of this card spiking down the line. If you think you ever might want to play Keter Sanctuary, specifically the Bastion build, like, you need to make sure you pick up 4 of this. Because who knows, like a year down the line, we're only getting sets every 2 months. That's 6 sets in a year. There's still potential that like 3-4 sets down the line, this card is still in the deck. And 100%. It'll be expensive.
I would be worried about the game if this is phased out in the first year.
It's true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how crazy must the power creep have to be for this to be phased out? Because this is such a good card.
I'm really hoping for more horizontal power creep. And if this card stays, this will be a mainstay for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping the power creep is more with
horizontal,
good options rather than
basically like
massive upgrades.
Horizontal power creep means like you create more decks of the same power level so that they spread out, and the meta is not so like 1, 2, 3 deck tier 1. It's like multiple decks are viable.
Yeah.
As opposed to like it's opposed to like V series in the G era, I guess, when they literally base power creep asset every single booster.
Yeah. Well, you know where we're gonna see it first, right? Rankgate. Rankgate's gonna be the first nation to double up into a deck, and that's when we're gonna see the first time a deck gets like a massive amount of support twice.
Yeah,
we're gonna see it first in Brankgate, and that's how we're gonna be able to evaluate the overall power creep level of Overdress going forward. Yeah. Because then we have three clans merged in.
I mean, it's really hard to judge. Like, I don't feel like I have a good enough view from this of what the future will look like. Like, a lot of people are making all these kind of predictions based on this first set, and I think I don't really know what those are based on beyond pure speculation and V.
I like the power level of the stuff I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And I like the future proofing of all the stuff I'm seeing. Like, everything's very open-ended. They didn't lock anything in except for Dragon Empire. But like, that specifically, looks like they're just going to grow that specific deck all the way through, so it's not that big of a deal.
I think that's probably the goal for most of the start decks. I think they want those start decks to be
locked in.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a little bit, I think, where they've been perhaps a bit too zealous on.
Well, only D and DS are hard locked. The others are all pretty loose.
I think so too, but there's the occasional card, like the one we talked about earlier, the Stoicheia card from earlier today. I can't remember what it's called now, but like where it has to be placed from hand. There's a little bit of stuff like that where I'm like, I think they could probably let that go.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, I do kind of think it's a good sign that they are aware of that stuff. So maybe in a couple of sets' time, we'll go, actually, I'm glad they did that. You know what I mean? So I don't it's too soon to say, I think, in a lot of ways.
I gotta say though, that was the first double R, the grade 2 you're just talking about, Elena. So that was the first double R we're seeing that basically supported the TDs. This is the first triple R we're seeing that supported the TDs. I'm liking like the evolution of what we're seeing to the trial decks from these cards.
Yeah,
like it's a definite bump up. Like that double R is way better than anything in that Stoicheia trial deck.
100%.
But it's not like it's game-breakingly broken. I mean, you could probably argue Alden's the closest thing to like being game-breaking and overdressed. But I mean, it's not like it's like holy crap. Like
this isn't. Yeah, exactly. I'm not convinced, even though it's the only deck where we've seen this triple rare rearguard. I'm not looking at this going, oh fuck, Kita's gonna dominate.
Yeah,
it is a very good card though.
It's a very good card, but I'm more looking at this going, okay, this is probably going to be something. We're going to see this power level across all the decks. I'm fairly comfortable saying that, because also the other thing with Alden, I think Alden is very clearly replacing a specific card from the start deck.
Yeah, no, like I want to talk a bit about that. Like at least when you're building up your grade ratios, right? Like Alden completely replaces the other card in that regard. Like it's going to be the 4th no matter what happens. Yeah. But like the other card may still be in there as a 1 or 2 off, just as a fix, like just in case we don't draw this, because now with the right deck and best shit.
Possibly, yeah.
My main question though that I see from this is, so I see how he works with Bastion, of course, but seeing how he works with Hexaorb, it's a little less synergy. So my question going forward is like, so for off grade 3s, or even for some of these decks, like for instance Magnolia, which is intended to basically be a 4 grade 3 deck, how splashable are some of these double R's and triple R's going to be? Because I mean, it's not a bad card to run in Hexaorb, but like you're gonna have to really run through hoops to plus off this card, which I don't think is a bad thing considering what Hexaorb does. But it gets a little more dicey when you look at some of the other clans.
Well, I mean, you're running this in Hexaorb at the moment.
Oh, definitely.
Like once Hexaorb gets a couple of double rares in there or whatever, this is probably not going to be run. But like looking at the way the game is now, this is pretty splashable. It probably won't be long term, but right now, just because we have that lack of information and that lack of other options, I think it's pretty.
It is.
I would personally choose to put this in Hexa.
My main concern is, are these secondary triple Rs? Well, basically, they're only getting one triple R, but are the start decks getting these triple Rs going to put all of the start decks slightly above the main set decks, and that's why.
That was my feeling, because I don't think that it seems to me that the design intention of the start decks is that the grade 3 boss in those should be the equivalent of the grade 3 triple rare bosses from this set.
But there's a power vacuum when it comes to the backup option for the main set versus the backup option for the start deck.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah, like because they're not, because like if I'm playing Hexaorb, I'm not getting a triple rare designed to work with Hexaorb.
Yeah,
but Hexaorb, I think Hexaorb is supposed to be on that same power level as Bastion.
You know where we're going to see this the best, right? Dragon Empire. Once we see that second Verena, that's when we're really going to know, because we're getting the Desert Banner on Tuesday. Yeah. So that's when we're really going to know like the actual gap between the main decks and the start decks.
Yeah. If there is one, there may not. We may be.
I mean, well, there's no way that the Desert Gunner is going to be able to use that Verena.
I think it's really unlikely. I mean, maybe it's just a beat stick, maybe, but I think it's super unlikely that we're going to see. No, I really hope not. Anyway,
I do hope that they structure that deck well enough to possibly function with only one real high rarity card. But I mean, they'll probably give the double R to them, knowing that.
Yeah, so I think that's probably true. I mean, I'm not too concerned though about like a massive power disparity between the two at the moment. Like I said, I think they could easily make Hexaorb a viable alternative to Bastion by just putting in a double rare and some decent res.
Just based on like, I want there to be 10 decks that are all relatively close in terms of power level. I mean, there's no way we're gonna have 10 decks all equal in strength, but like, it'd feel really bad if, like, for instance, Arena
like
is
one
just
of them really
disgustingly more powerful than the Desert Gunner deck.
The Desert Gunner, yeah.
Then it doesn't feel like there's two archetypes. It just feels like Varina the clan.
One good one and this one budget one.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the V syndrome, isn't it? Where any decks that weren't the main deck of that set were kind of just like a whatever until we got to 7Cs, where they started to actually go, okay, look, this is a functional deck. It wasn't very good, but you know what I mean? They started saying, okay, look, we are actually making a deck that's another alternative.
Because, I mean, we could transition this to Baromagnes, because this is a great opportunity to talk about that. I feel like Baromagnes...
Well, yeah, I think that's... I
think Baromagnes is the first instance of where the start deck and the main set deck feel pretty even in terms of overall power.
Yeah, exactly what I was about to say, because I feel like Zorga is quite a lot better than...
I feel like it's better than Magnolia. Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot better, just looking at it now. Obviously, that's going to change as more cards get revealed, but right now, just looking at those two, I'm like, and considering how fucking hyped people were about Magnolia just because it could attack 6 times.
I don't know though. I feel like Magnolia is really suffering because it can attack 6 times.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of meh. Like, I don't want to slag it off too much. Like, I don't think it's crap.
Like they've overcompensated.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
The fact that
yeah, it's suffering from. It's like Fianna and Loard. Loard was so good that they felt the need to hammer Fianna into the ground. And I feel like V had so much kind of broken multi-attacking that anything that multi-attacks in a kind of, 5, maybe more than like 5 attacks is going to get really punished for it.
Yep. That's why I think fronts are going to be really important in Magnolia, because your front row attacks are going to be so weak, so underpowered. Like, they're barely getting any power. They're only hitting for like 14Ks. So fronts are going to be even more integral on that turn when, they are going to be 24K attacks and your back row attacks.
To be honest with you, looking at things now, I kind of think Magnolia is the worst. I mean, like, obviously Brandgate is weak, but Brandgate has such potential in terms of growth.
Brandgate's hitting magic numbers now. I don't even think it's bad now.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But what I mean is, like, there's the potential, and like you say, we're already kind of seeing that it's, it's already pretty decent now. But even just comparing the start decks, you could see where Brandgate could easily go.
Yeah.
And I can't really see how they're going to grow Stoicheia without breaking it. And I think that they also agree with that. And so I think we're not going to see it really. I don't know. I kind of think that deck is the one I'm least, excited about in terms of it being powerful.
Yeah. I mean, we could be completely wrong, right? Like,
we're just speculating, yeah.
Whatever the other triple R is, it has to be the triple R, even though I think the double R is more catered towards them.
Yeah.
But, like, whatever the other card they're getting is, like, it could theoretically, like, be a huge boost to the clan, so we might be wrong. Like, we might just need to see.
I mean, looking at Alden, I think you're probably right, to be honest. But like I said, I just think in terms of the mechanics of the deck, I'm the least. I feel like the mechanics of the deck are going to make Bushy be very cautious about giving them too much power.
I mean, you could already see it in the fact that Magnolia is one of 2 cards that only go off when you Persona Ride.
Yeah. And it's definitely the worst of the 2, in my opinion.
Yes and no. I think the effect is super, super future-proof. Like, this card could be nuts down the line.
Yeah.
But I think right now, it's definitely weaker than Hexaorb.
But yeah, I mean, Hexaorb kind of has a bit of a growth limit on it, to a certain extent, compared
of how generic it is, yeah. But Conblast cost might be an issue, as we see if kita too much Conblast.
Okay, let's talk about Baromagnes then, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, you can take it away on the
you can take it over.
Oh, so you want me to read the cards?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I'm just gonna blitz through the ride chain. Okay. So first we have Deep Sonicer, which is the grade 1. Auto, when this card is placed on Vanguard Circle, soul charge 1. So pretty simple. Yeah. Continuous Regard Circle during your turn. If your soul has 10 or more cards, this unit gets power plus 10k.
Broken.
This card is absolutely insane, just from the standpoint of like the ride effect is very good. You get the free soul charge, which is going to be really nice.
Yeah.
The fact that if you go second, you get to choose between the draw, the soul charge, draw, depending on whatever you have in your hand. That's always going to be nice, of course. A 10k bonus to attacking, boosting, what have you. Like, this is going to be probably your main beat stick whenever you're going for your multi-attack combos.
Yeah.
It's going to make your columns really beefy. Hitting 10 soul at first seemed really hard when the cards were initially revealed, but it's not as bad as we got a few more cards to fill it out. I think this grade 1's absolutely amazing. Probably one of the better grade 1s in the
It's really good. Yeah.
In the game, yeah. He's a free as 18k.
But it is fairly locked to this. Like, you can't really put this in Bruce.
Bruce, no.
Yeah,
other versions of Darkseid decks, possibly.
Yeah.
And I mean, Bruce can hit the soul, but there's soul blasting so much. That
Exactly. Like, it's not going to be consistently there.
So no, this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the other best Rad Chain grade 1s. Definitely a 4 of in every Baromagnes.
In fact, that's the thing we've seen, isn't it? All of the grade 1 Ride Chain cards from the main set have been really good. Like this, what is his name, Tier Square, and Chain Ranker, whatever it's called, Ranker Chain.
Yeah.
Those have all been really good. Sorry, Chain Ranker is the Strider.
I mean, I guess you could say that all the Darkseid ones are also fantastic too, because you want to max out on Bruce Red Chain as well.
I feel like Dark States in general is really good.
Oh, it like both decks feel like a blast to play.
Yeah.
And they feel similar enough, but they feel different enough too, which is nice. So Electro Spartan's the grade 2. Auto when this unit is rode upon by Master of Gravity Baromagnes, cost put a card from your hand into your soul, draw a card, and soul charge 1. His second effect is auto when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, cost counterblast 1 and soul charge 2. This card is the best card in the deck.
Yeah. It's so good. I mean, the ride effect, or the road when it's rode upon effect, is amazing. It's basically soul charge 2, but you get to filter 1.
It's really handy too for putting stuff in your soul currently that you have to run that you don't want to run, like Direful Doll Violetta.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. You can put in cards that you plan to call out later. So for instance, you can tuck your Sonicers in there if you know there's going to be a lot of removal.
Keep them safe. Yeah.
Call them out. There's all sorts of ways that you can play around with this. I really like it, and the gold fishing that I have done with it.
Yeah. Even in Bruce, you can play it, right?
Yeah, you could play it just for the second effect. And I mean, that's why they don't have to play Brother Soul in Bruce, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird that Bruce is the deck that doesn't need Brother Soul.
Yeah.
At least now, yeah.
It'd be nice if you didn't have to play Brother Soul in this, but like not playing Brother Soul is going to make it so much harder to hit the 10 on turn.
Well, I mean, I guess we can wait and see what happens to that, because maybe that's not going to be such an issue going forwards.
True. It basically feels like a VBT06 DI where you only played 8 grade 2s and your other grade 2 was just there because you had nothing better. That's what this feels like right now. 8 grade 2s and the other grade 2 is just there because all we have is Violetta.
Yeah.
Finally, the main card, Master of Gravity Baromagnes. Auto Vanguard Circle when this unit attacks, cost counterblast 1 and perform all the following according to the number of cards in your soul. 5 or more, draw a card. 10 or more, this unit gets power plus 10k. Critical plus 1 until the end of that battle. 15 or more, both you and your opponent put all your own rear guards into your souls. Choose up to 2 cards from your soul, call them to rearguard circle, and those units get power plus 10.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good. Like, straight away. Even just the counterblast 1, draw a card is good.
It's really valuable.
Like, right now, that's so good. The fact that it does more on top of that is crazy.
This is definitely a fantastic card.
Yeah.
So, at first glance, it's going to look like, from Electro Spartan and Baromagnes, like, you're going to have a lot of CB, so you might run into CB issues, but it should be really easy to play around with it because you're not really using a lot of resources on anything.
You could also say that about most of these decks, I think. So I don't think you can use that as a criticism of this, to be honest.
Well, people will think that because of how much you need to soul charge, but like it really doesn't feel that bad in actuality.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, you're probably only going to have maybe 2, possibly 3 turns of Baromagnes effect. You only need to soul charge to 15. It's not like old DIs where you just keep soul charging. Like once you have 15, you don't need to get it more.
Power comments,
yeah.
So it's not as bad as it seems on like from the outset. I actually think that the deck's pretty fair on cost.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's too bad. I think there's way worse cost issues for other decks. than this.
I think on like first ride, realistically, you want to get the 10 or more on the first ride.
That's
on the next
about
turn,
what
then
I'd
you're
say,
going
yeah. Like you need that pressure because you don't want to commit a lot on your turn 3 turn because against this deck, they're going to try and kill your rear guards to deny you counterblast and to not die to your turn 4. So knowing that you want to pressure, you're going to want to at least get a rear guard out anyway, and optimally try and get the critical on Vanguard, try and make your Vanguard more threatening to push damage. But you don't want to commit too much to where they're not actually attacking you and they're denying you from having a turn 4. So it's going to be a bit of a give and take, I feel like, when you're playing this deck.
I mean, I think some of that translates into things that we're going to see more generally in this format. I think we're going to see a lot more denial kind of plays, and I guess it exists in V now, but it didn't exist in V for a lot of V. And I think that's kind of interesting. And I think that's partly the reason why they've increased costs, is so now there is more of a level of counterplay in how much resources you're giving to your opponent to use.
This is more counterplay that gets around Verena.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everything has a way of fucking Verena now.
Yeah. Except for Soshia, right?
It's like
only Soshia doesn't yet.
Yeah, it doesn't right now, but it probably will.
Yet,
but I do kind of wonder if we're going to see maybe the grade 3 Verena, assuming it is a grade 3. I wonder if we're going to see that have a more utility.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly read the order before we talk about this more.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
This order is actually interesting. So, Crawl You Insects, that's what's called in English.
Crawl You
Insects. Amazing name, yeah.
Play this with cost counterblast 1, soul charge 1. Then choose one of your units and it gets power plus 10k to the end of turn for every 5 cards in your soul. If your soul has 10 or more cards, draw a card. Now, normally...
For every 5.
Normally, orders, like we were talking about, they're bad because typically they're always going to be a -1. This is actually a net 0. But a soul charges, so it's almost like a soft +1. It really isn't. But unlike Brother Soul,
you could look at it that way if you wanted to be generous, though, I suppose.
True, yeah. Other like Brother Soul, which is actually a bad card, this will give you usually on your first grade 3 turn plus 20k to any
one
unit.
of your
so your Vanguard, your rear guards, anything. And you're going to draw a card, so you're going to go net 0 on playing the order, drawing a card. It sucks that it's not on a body, but it still soul charges 1, so that's also still good.
Yeah.
Use Counterblast, that's unfortunate. But, like, it's not like you're going to be running a lot of grade 3s anyways, and I feel like this order is actually a better card overall than Brother Soul. The only reason you'd be running Brother Soul is because you need to hit 10 soul on the first grade 3 turn, or you just have no pressure. That's just the unfortunate part. If we get better ways to soul charge on a body, we just cut Brother Soul.
I was going to say, I wonder if Brother Soul is similar to how Alden replaces the grade 3 order. I'm kind of hoping that there's a grade 1 that replaces.
There might be like that bar.
I think it'd be a grade 2. I don't think it'd be a grade 1.
Well, yeah, a rear guard is what I mean, yeah.
We'll definitely have to see. I mean, the grade 1 that we also got, Direful Doll Simone, auto rear guard circle and this unit boost if your soul has 5 or more cards, cost counterblast 1. And until the end of that battle, when your opponent would call cards from their hand, they must call 2 or more at the same time. That card is fantastic.
It's very fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely think you run that card in this deck.
It's the kind of card where I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, so there are going to be these kind of generic
gun streak soft.
Well, I don't mean generic aggressive pieces like this, you know. For a common, this is fucking brilliant.
And she's fantastic in the sense that, like, so when you think about what this order does, and then you think about her, so the obvious thing a lot of people are going to want to do is they're going to want to stack all the power in the column she's boosting, but that's redundant because they're already going to have to commit 2 or more to guard whatever you give power from Crawl.
Right?
So you actually want to put this behind a rear guard that's only going to swing for maybe like 18k, something that
swings
be a 1-card card.
Almost vanilla numbers, yeah.
And then that's going to force 2 cards out of that. Then they have like at least the 30k plus rear guard on the other column, and then you still have a 23k Vanguard with a crit.
Well, looking at what we have now in the meta, looking at kind of limited hand size and smaller shield value, effects that force your opponent to call 2 or more cards are really good. I think this is a card that people don't really understand, maybe, because I haven't seen anyone talking about this much. But I looked at this card, I was like, wow, that's so fucking good for this format. And yeah, I guess because it's a common, because it wasn't a big triple rare, people weren't excited about it. I don't know. But for just like a random throwaway reveal, it looks so good to me.
This card is fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, another thing about how Baromagnes works with the general mechanic of Persona, right? So the cards you call will also get the power. Like I think we've touched on it earlier, but just a reminder. Like, so if you're calling the Great One, it's already 28k base power. Like on a Persona right turn, 38k power. Yeah.
I mean,
no, it's 38.
Yeah.
So Persona Ride is
Baromagnes 10k from itself and 10k from Persona Ride.
Yeah, they get from
38.
Yeah, it's 38k on its own. Which is really on par with the Creature Colossus.
So is Colossus when placed or when placed from hand? It's when placed.
Colossus is when placed. So
yeah,
Colossus is actually pretty decent in Baromagnes, just simply from the fact that like if you're calling it and you don't really have a lot of Sonicers to call, you can call it back out the Soul Charge, which will also help you set up more if you need it.
I think it's a good card. I think just the fact that it's 28k is makes it playable.
Well, no, you don't
not
get
in this,
the power.
but I mean in like a general. Like, I was just talking about the card in general. Like that's the one you don't replace from the start deck, right? But even as a non-generic,
even as a generic,
even with a like it's like I'm talking about Alden. I would run Alden in Hexa right now. I would run Colossus in this just because the skill does something. You know what I mean?
I do know some people are trying to work out a hybrid, basically where you're running Bruce so that you could also run Presenter, and then you run Colossus. And basically the gist of it is like you're on Bruce and then you ride. So you're on the Final Rush, then you ride onto Baromagnes, and you have the Final Rush for the turn plus Baromagnes.
Okay.
I saw someone talking about that somewhere. Yeah.
So that is something, but I feel like for the added power, you only get 5k more power in Colossus, but your overall turn kind of loses out from. I mean, you get the Final Rush for the turn, but it's a lot of card block.
But you won't
miss
get
out
on
the Persona Ride.
Persona Ride, yeah. So you only get 5k, basically more.
And that's if you have the counterblast to do this.
Yeah, it's kind of situational. Yeah.
It's a neat idea because you basically get the
Final Rush to yourself.
You get the Bruce guaranteed from your ride deck. So it's a neat concept. You also basically give up. I mean, you're running 4 Spartan in the main deck, and you just run the ride chain going up.
Yeah,
it was a neat idea.
Yeah, definitely. But like I said, I think Colossus could justify itself here. I don't know that it's. Like I said, it's one of those cards where I think if something could come along where we go, okay, we don't need that now. But I think it's good enough to, at least in the position we're in now, this kind of weird where we just don't have all the information yet. So we're trying to because we want to see it, we're trying to make decks with cards that maybe aren't supposed to go into those decks, But I like it.
It's the first time we've started from a scratch, ever since the start of V from back in 2018. Yeah. So for once we see totally brand new cards. We see them as a review. There's no backbone to fall back on.
It's interesting looking at just Dark States in general and how it plays. I feel like it's neat that both decks are decks you generally don't want to try to play late game with. You just won't be able to survive these decks eventually because they're going to just gain so much value, so much momentum for 5 attack turns.
What's kind of interesting about Dark States for me is that it feels there's a much more common thread going through the 2 decks we've seen so far than there is, say, between Zorga and Magnolia or Hexaorb. And it feels much more like these are decks with a kind of common, maybe not a common mechanic, but a common gameplay style to a certain extent. Yeah. Which I think is interesting.
That's got a bit like deck manipulation, and that's playing off what you have. Then Dark States has this big end game.
But what I mean, I mean more that they're both very soul focused too.
I mean, that's gonna be normal though, because Dark States in general, all the Dark Zone clans except Gear Chronicle traditionally were pretty soul based.
Yeah, but what I mean is from a how splashable a card's going to be perspective, there's a lot more potential for stuff to be splashable when they have that common mechanic than say Stoicheia, where the 2 decks we've seen so far, although there's obviously generic aspects to those mechanics that can cross over to both decks, you're not going to be running certain pieces for Magnolia that will be good for
a deck from back row in Zorga.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that sort of stuff isn't compatible. Where you're much more likely to have stuff that's cross compatible between these decks.
I called that from the get-go though, that Dark States is going to have the most
cross-play. I remember you saying that.
Staples.
Yeah, definitely, and it's been proven true.
In my opinion, it's going to be like Dark States. Then Cater Sanctuary will probably be the next one after that. Just how the clans naturally are in those clans.
Yeah, I think so.
I think as time goes on, you're going to see a lot more splashable staples in Keter for sure. But right now, they're trying really hard to keep them like separate.
Kind of like Gate 3-ish.
I wonder if that's an attempt to tackle a kind of perception that, not from everyone, some people think costs are going to be really low, other people think costs are going to be really high for staples. So I wonder if that's why that is. They want to keep staples as deck staples rather than nation staples as much as they can.
Like double R or below, right? Like see the over triggers are double R and your generic. Buffet cards are rare. That even the creative for Socia is no, she's technically generic is double R, but like Alden is triple R. Like maybe that's how we are going about it. Like more deck specific stuff will be higher rarity.
Yeah, definitely. Right, I think we have to leave it there for today, boys.
Alrighty.
Big thanks to Zaee for taking part. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. We are going to do a premium focused episode in, I don't know when, but like once we have kind of a better understanding of what the premium meta could be like with these cards and stuff, we'd love to have you on again for that.
Definitely, I can't wait to talk about Baromagnes and Castile.
Do you know what? I need to talk to you about something later, actually, but I'll touch in a bit. That's not related to this, but there's that new Gastee deck everyone's been playing in Premium. I want to ask you about that.
Yeah, I guess.
Gotcha.
I want to talk about that in a minute. But anyway, that's irrelevant to this show. Maybe that's a future episode. But
Premium.
Where can people find you, Zaee, if they want to check you out?
You can always message me on Discord. So my handle is Zaee #2572. Other than that, I'm on Reddit u/dmock. But I don't typically get messages there, so just message me on Discord.
Yeah, if you and legitimately, you are one of the most knowledgeable people about this game, I think, that I know, by far. So, and you're also pretty cool. Like whenever someone wants to mess, like what I mean is like if you message saying like, "Oh, Zaee, what does this do?" You'll give a good opinion on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I try to stay objective. You know, like stay impartial, don't be biased.
Good.
Because if you always look at stuff like this has to be good because it's my clan or whatnot, like you're never going to be able to really understand the game properly, and I feel like that's something that people have a lot of problems with. They can't leave their personal biases at the door.
It's
funny because I'm an Aqua Force main, but I typically am grilling Aqua Force players all the time when they either overreact or undersell their own cards.
So I'm the opposite. I always, if I play a clan, I'm like, this must be shit because it's my clan. That's why it was like playing Oracle 2019.
That's the current Aqua Force mentality. Everybody like Aqua Force is garbage. Like, no, it's actually pretty good for most of V.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, we'll keep going for another hour if we keep talking about other stuff. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on. As always, check us out, Axis Vanguard, not the kiteboard company. Shout out to the kiteboard company. Don't sue us for having the same name. Again, we're still not on Apple Podcasts, but that'll happen eventually. We're on everything else. I don't know why I'm saying that. If you're listening to this, you probably already found the podcast. So, but yeah, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully, we'll be talking about at least one more triple rare for a main deck, for one of the start decks, and obviously we've got the Desert Gunner deck, and what was the other one? Brandgate, yeah, which is looking like Starvader type thing. Oh, that's going to be so hype. That's going to be I'm calling it now. That is the money cards of this set. Is that?
I mean, Daisuke, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, they look fucking awesome as well. The art's amazing. Yeah, I know we'd already seen it, but looking at it again, I'm not even a big Link Joker guy, but they do look fucking awesome. But yeah, thank you very much. Catch you next time. Say goodbye.
All right, okay, bye.
The most enthusiastic goodbye in the world there from Cipher. Thanks.
I did go.
Right, then. Oh, he's got to go. Fair enough. Sorry to keep you busy. All right, thank you very much. Peace.